Hello friends, this is Jim with Science Talk. I want to discuss something with you that I will venture to hypothesize most of you have not thought about. I could be wrong. And namely, fish can't smell well in more acidic seas. Obviously, if you can't smell food, and you have to smell food to find it, you're going to be in trouble. More so if you can't smell or scent danger, now you're at increased risk. More acidic seas could affect fish's ability to smell. For example, sea bass tested in oceans that had higher levels of dissolved CO2, i.e. carbonic acid, expected at the end of the century had their sense of smell dramatically reduced by the change. So fish depend on smell to find food, to avoid predators, recognize each other, identify spawning grounds. Salmon find their way to their natal stream where they actually hatched out, because when they hatch out, the odors imprint upon them, and they literally follow their nose, right? They literally smell their way back to the natal stream to spawn. If they can't smell their way back, they're not going to be able to spawn. That's a problem. So if they lose their sense of smell, it's a more dangerous world for them. So British and Portuguese scientists report in a journal, Nature Climate Change. They used a mix of physiological and behavioral studies to work out how a valuable commercial species, Dicentractus lebrox, also known as the European bass, sometimes called the loup de mer, responded to higher levels of CO2, dissolved CO2, in ocean waters. Oceanic CO2 has risen by 43% since the start of the Industrial Revolution. CO2 plus water makes carbonic acid. So obviously we know that the pH of the waters is decreasing. By 2100, current levels of this dissolved gas, CO2, will have more than doubled. So, Cosima Porteous of the University of Exeter in the UK, who led the research, said, we compared the behavior of juvenile sea bass at CO2 levels typical of today's ocean conditions and those predicted for the end of the century. Sea bass in acidic waters swam less and were less likely to respond when they encountered the smell of a predator. These fish were also more likely to freeze, which might indicate some form of anxiety. The study confirms that economically important species will be affected by changes in ocean water chemistry. As waters warm, fish can migrate to cooler climates, but the impact of acidification will be much the same across the entire planet, right? Because you have currents, you have horizontal movement and vertical movement of water. That leads to mixing. Researchers warned years ago that shifts in the pH value of the ocean, CO2 plus water makes carbonic acid, which is an acid decreases the pH of the water, could seriously affect organisms in the ocean. Carbon dioxide has been implicated in a long ago distant mass extinction event, Permian. Increasing acidification, not only does it decrease the pH of the water, but it does what? It increases the solubility of certain compounds, such as calcium carbonate. So just think, if you're an organism that builds a calcium carbonate shell around yourself, you could be a foram, you could be a coral polyp, right? And then what happens? The ocean's getting more acidified. It starts to dissolve your home, right? Your shell around you starts dissolving. That puts your survival at risk, increased risk. So this has implicated not only can they not, you have fish may not be able to smell food or detect their predators, but now you have invertebrates may not be able to, they use carbonates, calcium carbonate, to make their shells, but the increased acidity will dissolve their shells. And I've already described to you about the issue with salmon, trying to find their way back to the natal stream to spawn. So this study is really the first to test the olfactory responses of commercially important species. Now, they only test the sea bass. However, the mechanism of how fish smell is thought to be at least the same across a wide range of species, bony fish species, the osteichthyes versus the chondrichthyes, which are cartilaginous fish such as sharks, skates, rays. Dr. Porteous states their ability to detect and respond to some odors associated with food and threatening situations was more strongly affected than for other odors. We think this is explained by acidified water affecting how odorant molecules bind to olfactory receptors in the fish's nose, reducing how well they can distinguish these important stimuli. Her colleague, Rod Wilson, also from Exeter, said, our intriguing results show that CO2 impacts the nose of the fish directly. This will be in addition to the impact of CO2 on their central nervous system function suggested by other studies previously, which proposed an impaired processing of information in the brain itself. Whoa, that's significant. So if the CO2 in the water, which basically means you're acidifying the water, if it starts impacting the actual central nervous system of the fish, not just olfaction, but the whole central nervous system, that's huge. That has major implications, all which is not good. So this is a groundbreaking study. This is an excellent study, but this has grave implications, especially for, not just commercially important fish species, but fish species in general. So yet another ramification of human activity. Thank you for your time. Hey folks, this is Jim here reminding you to subscribe to this channel, to share my videos, tell others of the work that I do here. I also ask that if you are not already a patron at Patreon, to please consider becoming a patron at Patreon. You can find the information in the description box below the video. I'm asking you to help support the work that I do. I do not take any money from corporations or from any other sources. So the information I share with you is the actual science as it comes out of the peer-reviewed journals. So there is no BS, there's no propaganda, there's no agenda. It's just I present the science and I explain to you what it means, or at least my interpretations of it, based on my own experience as a scientist. I want this channel to grow. I consider, while I discuss many different topics here, you notice I do focus a lot on climate issues. I consider climate change to be the most pressing issue facing humanity today. Thus, I consider it important to disseminate this information to a wider and wider, more and more people. And I need your help to do this. So, yes, please subscribe. Please tell others of the work that I do here. Please share my videos on social media platforms, with your social media groups, what have you. We need to get this information out there. So for those of you who are supporting me on Patreon, I thank you greatly for your support and continued support. It does mean a lot to me. So together we can get this information to more and more people. Thank you. Thank you for your support.